How one mechanic's illegal fuel line trick made pit stops disappear. Winning while everyone around you believes you are cheating, yet they cannot prove it. In the late 1960s, one clever mechanic discovered a way to make a NASCAR stock car run several extra laps without refueling. He did it using nothing more than a cleverly designed fuel line. Race officials inspected his car again and again, 17 different times. They dismantled parts, searched for hidden tanks, and checked every component. They never discovered the trick. Picture the scene. Charlotte Motor Speedway, in the late 1960s. The green flag waves and more than 40 stock cars roar into the first corner at nearly 160 miles per hour. By the 50th lap, many teams are already heading to the pit lane for fuel. One car, however, keeps circling the track. Lap after lap, crew chiefs begin counting in their heads, checking calculations. That car should have run out of fuel long ago, at least 10 laps earlier. But it keeps going. When it finally pulls into the pits, something even stranger happens. The fuel tank accepts far less gasoline than anyone believes possible. Inspectors rush in immediately. They measure the tank. They check for hidden compartments. They search the entire vehicle, and they find nothing. Because the secret was not hidden in something added to the car. The secret was hidden in how the rules were interpreted. This is the story of Smokey Yunick, one of the greatest rule benders in motorsports history, and the legendary 11-foot fuel line that changed NASCAR forever. To understand Smokey's brilliance, you first need to understand NASCAR during the 1960s. This was the golden era of stock car racing. Automobile manufacturers battled fiercely for showroom sales with a simple motto: win on Sunday, sell on Monday. The rulebook appeared straightforward. Fuel tanks were limited to 22 gallons. A fuel line had to connect the tank to the engine. Simple enough? Or so everyone thought. NASCAR's goal was to keep costs down and ensure close competition. If every car carried the same fuel capacity, teams would pit at similar times. Most race cars of that era averaged roughly 4 miles per gallon at racing speed. With a 22-gallon fuel tank, that meant a maximum range of about 88 miles before refueling. On a track roughly 1.5 miles long, that translated to around 58 laps. Every team understood that calculation. Every team planned strategy around it. Except Smokey Yunick. Smokey was not just a mechanic. He was an engineer who happened to build race cars. Born in the early 1920s, he had served as a mechanic for B-17 bombers during the Second World War. His job was keeping those massive aircraft flying over Europe. When you maintain machines where failure means 10 people might never return home, you learn to think about mechanical problems differently. After the war, Smokey opened a garage in Daytona Beach and quickly earned a reputation as one of the best mechanics around. By the mid-1950s, he was building NASCAR race cars. But Smokey approached the rulebook differently from everyone else. Other mechanics simply followed the rules. Smokey studied them like a lawyer. Where others saw restrictions, Smokey saw opportunities. The idea for his famous fuel system began with a simple observation. The rulebook clearly stated that the fuel tank could hold no more than 22 gallons. It also required a fuel line running from the tank to the engine. But nowhere, absolutely nowhere, did it mention how long that fuel line could be, nor did it specify the diameter. Most teams used a normal fuel line about 6 feet long and only a few fractions of an inch wide. Smokey had another idea. He built a fuel line using steel tubing, roughly 2 inches in diameter. But instead of running it directly from the tank to the engine, he routed it throughout the entire car. The tubing passed through frame rails, across the firewall, around the roll cage, and beneath the floor, loop after loop. By the time he finished, the total length measured roughly 11 feet, and that pipe was not empty. It was filled with gasoline. When you calculate the internal volume of an 11-foot pipe that wide, it holds nearly 2 extra gallons of fuel. That meant Smokey's car could secretly carry about 24 gallons, instead of the legal 22. Before inspection, the fuel tank was completely empty. Officials measured it and confirmed that it met regulations. What they did not realize was that the oversized fuel line was already full of gasoline. After inspection, Smokey's crew filled the tank with the legal 22 gallons. Together with the hidden fuel in the pipe, the car now carried almost 24 gallons. At 4 miles per gallon, that meant several extra laps on the track. In a long race, that advantage could be enormous. While other drivers pitted, Smokey's car stayed out. Competitors were confused and frustrated. Even famous driver Junior Johnson admitted later that teams spent months trying to figure out how Smokey's cars stayed on track longer than everyone else. They searched for hidden tanks, but nobody thought to measure the fuel line. NASCAR inspectors were equally frustrated. After one particularly dominant race, they completely disassembled Smokey's car. Body panels were removed. The frame was examined. Everything was inspected. They discovered the oversized fuel line, but the rulebook never said it was illegal. Smokey had technically followed every rule. NASCAR's founder, Bill France, found himself in a difficult position. He knew Smokey was bending the rules to their limits, but he was not breaking them. So NASCAR rewrote the regulations. Soon the rulebook specified maximum fuel line diameters and other restrictions. Each time NASCAR created a new rule, Smokey found another creative interpretation. The battle continued for years. By the early 1970s, NASCAR had rewritten the fuel system regulations again and again, 17 times in total. Modern NASCAR rulebooks now dedicate many pages to fuel system regulations. Back in the late 1960s, that entire section had been less than half a page long. Much of today's complexity exists because of Smokey Yunick. His innovations forced racing organizations to think differently about regulations. His ideas even influenced engineering fields outside motorsports, including aerospace fuel management systems. But perhaps Smokey's greatest achievement was philosophical. Before him, racing focused mainly on building faster cars. After him, racing became a competition of engineering, creativity, and rule interpretation. Smokey once wrote that inspectors searching for cheating were always looking in the wrong place. They searched the car, when they should have been studying the rulebook. Smokey Yunick passed away in the early 2000s, yet his influence remains everywhere in modern motorsport. Every time a racing team discovers a gray area in the rules, every time a clever innovation forces a regulation change, that spirit traces back to Smokey. He never believed he was cheating. He simply believed in reading the rules more carefully than everyone else. And sometimes, in racing and in life, that careful reading can make all the difference.